Men have two problems. Only two problems. That's all. One is the condemnation of sin. They cannot free themselves from the condemnation of sin. The other is they cannot free themselves from the power of sin. Now, God, what does He do? He frees a man. The moment a man believes, God frees him from the condemnation of sin. Christ carried that man's sin on the tree and paid for everything that man has ever done or will do against God. And that man is free from condemnation because Christ was condemned in his place. So problem number one is eliminated. But then there's problem number two. The man cannot free himself from the power of sin. And that is the work of the Holy Spirit through what we call regeneration. The old term for being born again. You see, you're a man and you're under the condemnation of sin because you've broken God's law. But not only that, you have a wicked, defiled, corrupt heart that cannot serve God. When God saves a man, He takes away the condemnation because Christ died for that man on the tree. But also when He saves a man, He takes out that wicked Adamic heart and replaces it with a new heart recreated in the image of God in true righteousness and true holiness. So this man becomes a new creature who now loves righteousness. He loves God's will and he wants to do it. You say, well, Brother Paul, if all that is true, then why do we still struggle with sin? Even true Christians struggle with sin. Let me tell you something. The true Christians' struggle with sin is actually one of the greatest evidences of conversion. Lost men don't struggle with sin. They live in it and they love it. And the only time it bothers them is if they get caught. But a true Christian, let me give you an example of what happens when a man is saved. All right, let's say I'm a lost man, okay? I'm a lost man, and snowing outside. Well, we're in Alabama now, so it's raining outside. I'm totally late for the office, and my wife didn't get up and make me those little bagels that I like, and so I'm ornery already. I grab my briefcase, I've got books under my arm, and I'm headed out the door. And right when I get to the door, she goes, "Honey, will you take out the trash?" That's all it took. And I turn around and I go, "What's wrong with you? Can't you see I'm late? Don't you know every time I get in this situation, you ask me to take out the trash and I am late. I'm probably going to get fired and our kids will starve to death." And I march out the door and I feel totally justified. Totally justified. Now, if some coworker saw me, I might be ashamed or something. But I feel totally justified in what I did. Now, a few years pass. I'm now a Christian. I'm now a Christian. I've got my briefcase. I've got my books. It's raining outside. I'm late to preach somewhere. I'm running out. My wife didn't make me those little bagels that I like. And I'm running out. And she says, "Can you take the trash out?" And I go, "Why do you always do that? I mean, you always can't you see I've got to leave and you're asking me to take the trash out? Why? Okay? I'm just going to go. You take the trash out." And what happens? The moment I do that, it's like someone just stuck a sword in my heart to the point of feeling nauseous, almost to the point of wanting to throw up. And in my stubbornness, I might make it to the car, but I'm probably going to have to leave my books in the car and go back in the house and apologize for what I've done. Or maybe I'll make it a few miles down the road, which is going to make me even more late because I'm going to have to turn around, come back, ask for forgiveness in order to be right with God. Do you see what's going on? The living proof that I am now a new creature. Before I was saved, I could sin and there was no problem. Why? The action I did was a perfect reflection of what I am. I'm a lost, sinful man. And when I sin, I'm justified in it. I don't even see it and I don't even care. But the moment a person is saved, they literally, really, this is not poetry, they literally become a new creature who can no longer bear with sin. And when I'm walking out that door, I am not, as a Christian, premeditating that I'm going to yell at my wife. I'm not premeditating that I'm going to be angry or spiteful or anything. But when I take off out there thinking I'm going to serve the Lord and she says something, my flesh grabs a hold of it and runs with it and says some terrible things. But the moment my flesh does that, the real Paul Washer, this new creature who's been recreated in the image of God in true righteousness and true holiness, it's like acid has been poured on him. Why? For the same reason a man cannot eat what a pig can eat. I can't bear with it because I really am a new creature. Is that the reality in your life? You see, that's the reality of a believer. Not that he can't sin, but that when he does, it is impossible for him to remain in it. It eats him alive because he really is new. It goes back to that proverbial thing. You set a pig loose in this building, it'll go right to the slop. It won't go to the fine serving of food. It'll go to the slop, and it'll stick its head in that slop, and it'll eat it all up, and it'll enjoy it and delight in it. But if in one moment you could turn that pig into a man, the first thing he would do is yank his head out of that bucket, because there are things that the nature of a man cannot eat like the nature of a pig. He's become a new creature. He can't stomach it anymore. In the same way, when someone is saved, before they're saved, they love sin, they eat it, they have no problem with it. When they commit sin, it doesn't bother them unless someone points it out and embarrasses them. They're okay with it. They put their head down in the bucket of sin and they eat it. And they enjoy it. But then all of a sudden, what happens? When they're converted, they become a new creature. The very stuff that they were eating down, they now hate and throw it back up. Now, that new creature, that man, can become deceived. He can walk back to that bucket, that Christian can, but the whole time he's walking back to that bucket, he knows he's wrong. And when he sticks his head in there, he can smell it and know it's horrible. And he can go ahead and take a bite, but when he takes a bite, he throws it up. Why? For the same reason. A pig is not a man, and a man is not a pig. They are two completely different creatures. A Christian who has been truly converted, regenerated by the Holy Spirit, is a different creature, really a different creature than he was prior to his conversion. And that's some of the things that we want you to see. Is that reflected in your life? Is it? Or do you just have a prayer that one time you prayed?